Welcome back to another episode of the SRU podcast with me and my guy Will Royal. As of right now, it is 8:35 Thursday, March 16th, Will. And you know what that means.
We are right in the midst of the first round of the NCAA tournament, and there have been some good games on. I have Fast Pass on or Fast Break on my TV right now. It just flipped over to Tennessee, Louisiana. But last I saw, Northwestern was pretty handily beating Boise. It's probably over now. And then Texas had like a 13-point lead over Colgate. But other than that, 10 other games I played. Excuse me. 10 other games have been played today. Some of them were exciting. Some of them I honestly didn't even watch.
Yeah, like
But let's start with off.
your
What?
team. Well, yeah, we
Okay,
can start.
I was gonna say let's start off with the first four because it was one exciting game and then three kind of meh games. Um, do we even should just talk about the 16 seeds because they're already gonna lose in the next round?
Yeah, we can talk about. Well, we could glance over yours. Well, you say you didn't even watch Alabama play Texas
Okay,
A&M.
not true. I watched as much as I could, but it was right in the middle of my busiest time for work. So I just had it on in the background. But from the looks of it, I mean, we won by 21, I think. So safe to say, we now take on Maryland on Saturday.
Yeah,
So looking forward to that. The only first four game I really want to talk about is the Mississippi State Pitt game, and it all came down to the last 15 seconds of the game. So essentially, Mississippi State was up by one. Pitt hit a jump shot 10 seconds to go to take the lead, and then Mississippi State had the ball in their own court, wide open three, corner, Ray Allen hit the rim, game over. Mississippi
yeah.
State loses.
I love seeing Mississippi State lose because Brandon Walker, I just don't like the guy. So seeing him crying on his knees was pretty
Yeah.
great, satisfying, some might say. But yeah,
But some of these other games I didn't really watch. Um, like I watched the second half games. I just got done watching, Duke beat Oral Roberts. You had Auburn beat Iowa. And then you have the first half games, those 8 games. Some of them you kind of expected. Like you mentioned, Alabama beat Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. You had your Razorbacks. I know you're happy about. They beat Illinois. Missouri kind of wasn't really much of an upset, but they were able to beat by Utah State. And then we have the upsets, 2 of them to be exact, both in Bama's region, which makes me happy. The first one coming off a possibly the dumbest play I think I've seen in March Madness in a while, and that is with Virginia Furman. Virginia had a timeout. They were double pressed in the back of their own half of the court, and what do? Hail Mary it, intercepted by Furman. They take it up, drain a three with 2 seconds. They hit it, game over.
yeah, it was about like what 9 seconds left. Virginia just
Not even less than that.
yeah, Virginia all they have to do inbounds the ball, either call the timeout or find a way out of the press instead of just chucking the ball over half court and letting Furman intercept it and hit the game winning shot or the go ahead shot, some would say. But yeah, game winning, whatever. But yeah, that was crazy. Too bad I wasn't able to watch that. I was at work, but that was that was a crazy ending. Probably one of the craziest endings, such as like the Mississippi State game. But yeah, March Madness is doing March Madness type things, man. It wouldn't be called March Madness without the madness. But
Yep. And this comes also 5 years to the day of Virginia becoming the first and currently only number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed.
but hey, you know what happened after that? That next year, they won the national
Might as well
championship.
run down to win the Natty.
Yeah, so hey, maybe next year Virginia's a lock to win the Natty. So hey, keep that in mind, y'all. But that wasn't the only huge upset of the day. It was a bigger upset Number 15 seed Princeton beats number 2 seed Arizona. A lot of teams had Arizona making it to the national championship. Some had them winning. Some of them had them in the national championship, and some had them in the Final Four. And Princeton won 59-55. It's a low scoring game if you think about it. And
But
Princeton just pulls it out. Them Tigers beat them Wildcats, man.
this was another game I didn't really watch because of work. So I had to go into the booth to produce my show. I was expecting Arizona to win. They were up when I went in, and then halfway through my show, I just hear someone go, "Well, Princeton just beat Arizona," and I'm like, "Wow."
Yeah. I didn't really get to watch this game. Well, I didn't watch this game at all because Arkansas was playing and giving me a stroke/heart attack. But do I love this upset? I do. I love this upset. I love seeing smaller teams upset huge seeds, unless it's like Arkansas. But I don't
Yeah,
think we've ever been like upset to something like this magnitude for sure. But it brings the fun and enjoyment of March Madness when big teams lose and you see a Cinderella team make it to the Sweet 16, like, or even the Elite Eight, like St. Peter's and what those old Davidson teams with Steph Curry, and
or
it's just fun
Robert
to
a few
see.
years ago.
Yeah, or Roberts, who ended, they got ended by Arkansas, but yeah, you know. Um, but what's the other like Cinderella teams that made it far? Butler, when Gordon Hayward was there.
You have the OG one, George Mason back in 2006. They were
Yeah,
the 11th seed to the Final Four. VCU, they were in the inaugural play-in back when that was the first year the field expanded to 68. They were playing and they made it to the Final Four in a shock of smart.
yeah. I just had
Florida Gulf Coast, the first 15 seed to make it to the Sweet 16.
yeah. Dang, who did I just had one. Loyola Chicago, Sister Jean.
Yep,
What they made it all the way to, was it Final Four or was it Elite Eight?
Final Four.
Yeah, that's when that I remember that year. That's the year where there was a lot of like crazy stuff happening.
That was the same year as the six of UMBC.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably the craziest year of March Madness in my recent memory. But speaking of Arkansas, since I mentioned them, they did beat Illinois. Let me see the score. Usually when Arkansas play, I just like blackout. Usually, most of the time when Arkansas play, I don't watch any more basketball after the game because I'm either on a high of us winning or just super depressed that we lost.
Yeah. Just an FYI, Northwestern went final. Texas is up by 20 with 30 seconds to go.
Hey,
And
uh,
nope, it just went. And
yeah,
then I
Arkansas
have
won 73-63. On to the next round against number one Kansas on Saturday. That game was very interesting. It was pretty close most of the time, and Arkansas ended up pulling away at the end. That game had a lot of great defense played, and Arkansas just it's just a March Madness thing with Arkansas that for the past since Musselman's been there that
yeah,
we just play our best in March when it comes after the SEC conference tournament. But Devo Davis is probably honestly he's probably the best March player in Arkansas history. It just seems like he always comes on when it comes to March Madness in the NCAA tournament. I remember
yeah.
2 years ago when Arkansas had first round game against Colgate and we were down I think 33-19 before the first half ended. He went on like an 8 point run for himself, and Arkansas ended up going into the second half up by 1 point, which is that's just March Madness for you. Teams could be down and just out of nowhere come back. But yeah, it's
Yep.
I just love this time of year.
And if we want to go ahead and look at tomorrow's bracket or today's when this episode comes out, there are some good games as well. Some potential upsets, I think. I could see Drake upsetting Miami. I
Yeah.
definitely could see Indiana losing to Kent State. That's been a very popular choice for people.
Um,
I think and I think Pitt could beat who's Pitt play again? Pitt could beat Iowa State.
I
I
actually
think
have Pitt being Iowa State.
I do as well. You have St. Mary's playing VCU. That's gonna be a very fun mid-major game. And
um,
then
Penn
you have
State, Texas A&M.
that's later tonight. Yeah, that's about to tip off.
Yeah.
And then
Also have
you have Memphis, Florida Atlantic. You have TCU,
uh,
Arizona State.
Michigan State, USC.
There's gonna be a lot of good basketball on tomorrow. I'm very excited.
Yeah, thank God I'm off tomorrow, so I can watch it.
I wish I was,
Yeah,
but we know news. It doesn't stop.
yeah, yeah. Let's go to some other games. Yeah, Missouri beating Utah State. That was a great game. You told me you weren't able to watch any of that. Um,
Yeah,
Utah State was, I think, yeah, they were up by one towards the end of this, well, towards the middle half of the second half, and Kobe Brown just just took over the game. Fast break, he pulls it, posts up down low against Utah State's big man, does a little drop step, makes a the layup. Literally, the next play comes down, pulls up from three, bang, goes in. The next play after that, comes down, shoots another three, bang. They're up by like, I think it was like back and forth, and I think they were up by 5 or 3 or something like that. But Missouri did at the end of the game took over and just beat Utah State, which was, I don't know if some people didn't see the Utah State cheerleader just trying to hold in herself from crying. It
yep.
was,
There's always that one.
yeah. If you would have saw the Arkansas game, one of Illinois' big man is just looking dead into the camera, just like the entire time. It was hilarious. But yeah, there's been a lot of good games this so far. Will, who do you have winning? I know you have Alabama on one of yours, but who's on another bracket? Who do you have winning?
Honestly, I think all of my brackets have Bama.
Jesus
I'm just
Christ,
that
Will, all of
confident.
them? What was the point of making multiple if you're just going to put Alabama winning?
And just gotta mix up the rest of the pot.
All right, I feel you. But
Um,
well, since I have a mixture of people winning, I have 3 brackets. One is my fan bracket that I always make, and it's Arkansas win it all. And that one I actually have Arkansas and Memphis in the championship. Do I see it
yeah,
happen? Probably not. I have Alabama winning in one of mine, and the one for our friend group, I have UCLA winning.
yeah. I'm pretty sure I have Bama in all of mine just because you know me.
Come on, Will, you gotta be unbiased, man. That's the only way you can win the actual bracket or your group thing that you have. You have to be unbiased. And sometimes being unbiased is so hard because you'd be want to be unbiased for one pick, but that next pick you want that team that you want to lose to lose.
Yeah, but oh well.
Yeah. Are there any more matchups that you're hoping to see in the future?
Future wise, my whole bracket. I definitely would love to see Memphis Duke in the Sweet 16. I think that is a possibility.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
a lot of people do have Memphis beating Purdue, and I actually can see it being trying to be as unbiased as possible. I can see Memphis beating Purdue because Memphis is electric when it comes to offense. I feel like Purdue, if you can stop Zach Edey from having a career night that he usually has, you can beat them. They are clearly beatable.
Yeah. One other game I want to talk about. This is the NIT, and we were talking about it beforehand. A lot of people were complaining about Rutgers not getting in, being in the last four, and they thought they should have been in over, like Pitt or Nevada. This proved what could have happened. They hosted Hofstra, who was the regular season champion in the same conference as Charleston, and they lost at home in overtime.
Yeah. Hey, I don't usually get into NIT unless it's like towards the end, probably the last few rounds. But yeah, that usually happens every once in a while. My favorite NIT moment is Kentucky losing, was it the first or second round back when they had
First round
yeah,
at
Nerlens
Robert
Noel.
Morris, and they played at Robert Morris because Rupp Arena was hosting the first round of the tournament.
Yeah,
And this was the year after they won the championship with
Anthony
Anthony
Davis.
Davis and Michael
Yeah,
Kidd Gilchrist.
yeah.
One other thing I want to talk about before we sign off, North Carolina and the fact that they pulled out of the NIT because they don't think it's at their level because they didn't make the tournament.
I feel
After
like well, that's not the first time we've seen that. Um,
it's
Duke did,
not, but it's the first time in a while we've seen it.
yeah, Duke did it the COVID year. They weren't going to make the tournament because they didn't have that good of a team. This is like the year before Zion. Was it the year before Zion? No, it
No,
was
COVID was after Zion.
yeah. So it was the year after Zion in a month.
Well, Zion was 2019, then COVID. No one had a.
So it was the year after. This was going to be like the first time Coach K didn't make the tournament, and guess what happened? A world pandemic happened. I remember that vividly.
Yep, almost 3 years, over 3 years. Because I remember. All right, so I tried check this, just coming home and like realizing it, like this is gonna be our life for like next 5 months is being stuck at home.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, other than like all the other stuff that happened during COVID, like the time that everyone was back home from college, it was actually a really fun time. I just remember all of us hanging out and stuff. But yeah, I have one more question. From who's your favorite player that's not like a huge like big school, more of the towards like the mid major? Who is your favorite like player coming out in March
This year or all time?
all time?
Ooh, there's so many to choose from. Well, one name that comes to mind to me is Ali Farouk-Manesh, 2010 second round Northern Iowa upsetting #1 overall Kansas, and Ali Farouk-Manesh hitting the game with like the nail in the coffin shot with like a minute to go.
Yeah. See,
That's one of them. There's like a million I can think of.
for me, one is definitely Steph Curry. Just
Well, obviously, I'm thinking of like the more obscure players, not like
yeah, I know
names
what you're
that.
talking about. Dang.
Another one for me, obviously, last year, Doug Edert,
Yeah. Dang.
St.
I'm trying to
Peter's.
figure out who do I remember? I,
You
I,
had this
I'm,
unknown kid from Murray State by the name of John Morant,
yeah. What
2019.
they lost in the round of 32, didn't they?
Yeah, they beat Marquette and then they lost to Florida State.
Yeah. Um. uh, when who was at Lehigh? Oh yeah, C.J. McCollum when he was at Lehigh and they beat Duke.
Yeah,
And
we can literally just sit here for hours and talk about these.
yeah. You remember, dang, who was playing that one year where the guy he knocked it off the top of the rim and the refs didn't count it. It was not that long ago. It was like a few years ago.
I don't remember.
Dang, I forget what team that was off the top of my head. I wish I would have just pulled some moments before we started the podcast. But I remember that what else was a huge, like very controversial moment? Um, when when Notre Dame played Kentucky, the year Frank Kaminsky was at Wisconsin, and they had Sam Decker, and Notre Dame should have won that game, but towards the end, the refs were like calling like the dumbest fouls, and Notre Dame ended up losing to Kentucky, but Kentucky did end up losing to Wisconsin. That was the year that they like went under. Kentucky went undefeated
Yeah,
until
that was like with Cat, D-Book.
yeah the
That was 2015.
because who was all on that team? I'm pretty sure Tyler Eulis was on that team. Who's
Tyler
now on
Euler,
Kentucky's? He's
the
now
Harrison
on
twins,
Kentucky's staff. Yeah, the Harrison
Willie
twins,
Cauley, Willie Cauley-Stein.
um, D Book, and they had a big man. Who was that? Was Cat? It was Cat.
It was Cat. They also had Alex Poitras.
Yeah.
That team was stacked
All right. Who's your most hated team?
all time.
Yeah.
Ooh. Just because I'm a Memphis fan, that 2008 Kansas
I knew
Jayhawks.
you were going to say that. I knew you were going. I wish JP was on here. He would, bro. We would literally have to have a segment on how much JP hates that Kansas team, even though that game never happened in the eyes of the NCAA.
Yep, there is no 2008 banner hanging up in FedEx Forum.
Yeah. For me, what team did I hate the most? Probably UNC. I want to say this was like 2013 when Arkansas played UNC and we lost because of terrible refing. Well, literally, if you ask me, the only time Arkansas loses is because of terrible refing. There's a few games where it's just like we just play like trash, like the Tennessee game this year. But
Yeah.
I feel like most of the time it's just terrible calls. But that's just me being a true fan. It's always the ref's fault when it in the eyes of me and watching an Arkansas game.
Hey, speaking of Memphis, just got Shams alert. Golden State Warriors are signing Lester Quinones to a two-way contract.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was on he got picked up undrafted free agent. I'm pretty sure he got cut. Then they picked him back up. And
Yeah,
a few
he's
days
been
ago
balling out immediately.
a few days ago he hit 41 points.
Yeah,
Yeah. I love that Memphis team. I remember watching them in the AAC championship last year. I was there, and that game was kind of disappointing because it started to get out of hand towards the end. But me and JP were waiting for Memphis to win because Memphis had just gotten finished blowing them out. What about was it like 25 or 30 a few
yeah.
weeks before the tournament, and they lost. It was very disappointing. And all the stuff that happened to me during that time was kind of bad. I had last year I probably had the worst birthday in the history of well, it's top two for sure. It's top two for sure. I remember first grade, I had the stomach virus on my birthday. Yeah, and last year I lost the key to my car, so I had to get a whole key made for the car on my birthday. So I was stuck in Fort Worth, laying on JP's couch while he was at school at class. But yeah, enough about that. But congrats to Memphis for winning the AAC championship this year in a great fashion. And now they're in the tournament and playing. I feel like that a game that could be a trap game, and the next game where they could actually upset what one of the number one seeds. Honestly, what well they ranked number where did Purdue end up finishing? Was it like four? I mean 3 or 2?
Yeah, because they're a number one seed, so they're definitely top four.
Yeah, I know because what Alabama was the number one overall seed, and
Yeah,
I want to say Purdue was two because Kansas lost to Texas. And did Purdue win their conference are they in? Do you remember?
I don't.
And Houston lost, and they're another number one seed. I don't know. It is what it is. But
It is what it is.
you have anything else, Will, before we wrap this up?
I think that's a good place to stop. We'll come back later next week, break down Sweet 16.
Yeah. Or we might even have 2 episodes next week. Who knows? We'll see.
Who knows?
Thank y'all for guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Turn your post notification on, and see y'all next week. Deuces.